Welcome to the February 18th Library Trustees meeting. We have a guest this evening. We have several guests this evening. So we're going to go around and do some introductions. And I'll start by introducing Lydia Goodwin. It's next to Lydia. So with the Lydia corner, we broke up the guys this time. And you'll get to meet Lydia in more depth later. Actually, Lydia is our candidate for the library director, if you haven't figured that out. So we'll be talking with Lydia in more depth. But we invited her to come to the whole meeting because we thought it would also give her a chance to get a feel for what a smooth operating machine we are. And I've already introduced Roger. And Ezra is the drinker. Yeah. Melanie?
I'm Melanie. I am also the, I'm taking minutes tonight. I'm also the treasurer.
Nice to meet you. And you know me, and you know Susan.
Robert.
Hi, Robert. Nice to
Robert
meet you.
has been probably the longest serving
It's 2007.
library director.
Correct.
And you met Wendy and Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice to see you again.
So, as I invited Susan particularly to come because she's on the search committee, and I did suggest that Roger might want to come because we will be talking about building stuff and all that. So, on that, I don't see anybody from outside up there. Is there anybody here who wishes to make a public comment? Not? Okay. You received the public meeting minutes of January 21st. Did you have a chance to look at them? So I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the January 21st meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 21st meeting?
January 21st.
21st, there we go.
Is there a second?
1 second.
No, you can't.
I'll second. I can if I could, because I wrote them. That's appropriate.
So any other comment on those? If not, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Next item is to accept donations for the month of January, which I think I gave away my agenda that I have
$93.
$93. Is that what you have?
Oh, I was the wrong one.
I took the 257 from
God.
Melanie's
Completely
report.
wrong. That's what it says here.
Yeah, so the amount is 257.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to accept the donations for January in the amount of $257?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Just to ask you quickly, Liz, I thought had said that she had done a report, a director's report, but I didn't receive anything.
I received it. I sent it out today blind.
Okay, well, I'm not getting email.
I will get it.
No, that's
I will get
okay.
it because I don't have the correct one with me, if that's okay.
Okay.
I know, yeah, I don't have the correct one with me.
So I have no idea what Liz wrote in her report because my email is down today.
Sure.
And when Wendy gets back, if anybody has any comments or questions about whatever is in that report, we'll pose them to Wendy. Did anybody have any questions? Comments? Well, this is going right along. Thank you. I'm really cleaning up tonight. Ezra.
Yeah.
Give that back to Ezra. Ezra took out the wrong amount.
Really? How
Well, I went and did a quick one at TD and I pressed the 50 button and I figured it wouldn't be a $50 bill. Figured it wrong.
ATM, yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Well, let's go on to the treasurer's report.
Treasurer's report. We have earned for our interest-bearing accounts in the month of January, $62.38. We have $37,251.81 currently invested in CDs. And those two CDs are coming due at the end of March, March 24th and 26th. So we'll need to discuss at the next meeting what we want to do. Liquid funds available as of today, $32,079.15. And I just wanted to make a quick reminder, not really related to treasurer, but the NHLTA conference registration opens on February 25th for the event that's on May 1st.
And I noticed oddly, I thought I saw in an email from NHLTA that if you wanted to apply for a scholarship, which we have often done, that those were due by February 17th.
Yes.
And that didn't make sense to me. So I may get in touch with them because it usually was, you know, at least a few weeks before the conference, but not before they even have the registration open. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but we'll check into that. The other thing I had communicated with NHLTA briefly on was membership, because we've had a couple changes in trustees and such, and I'm not sure their membership is up to date. So when my email starts working again, I may get in touch with a couple of you to make sure that you're getting on their mailing list for information, because you're not getting anything yet, Diane, are you? NHLTA, no, I thought there was a problem. Are you still getting stuff, Susan?
Mhm.
Yeah, so obviously, we have to make a few changes there. Pardon?
So we can't believe you have trouble with your
Yeah, I
email.
know. It's probably your messed up email. It probably messed up my email. It's all an infection. Any comments or questions for Melanie? Okay, moving right along. Well, we don't have a select board member here this evening, so I'll tell you this, talk about efficient. So library building project. First of all, yet another month, I can say we're on time and on budget. And I have been working with Jason, who has been working with Bowen on what I'm calling sort of a progress budget. And I only brought a couple copies, so I can make copies for you, and I have extras, just so you can see the process that this goes through. The budget itself is, you know, the costs. It looks pretty much like what you saw when we were preparing the warrant article. You know, the purchase of the building, the soft costs, the architecture stuff, the construction, and how much of that either is spent or no spent. Then there's another sheet that is the potential expenses. Things that range from parking lot lights, an exterior bollard light, which is a light for a walkway that's at the back. Switches for heat pumps turned out to be something we hadn't counted on, and so on. So there have been additions and some credits based on changes we've been making in the course of it. And then there are things that haven't even gone out to bid yet, like to patch and seal the parking lot. So for things like that, I put in a plug number based on what Jim Anderson, now the facilities manager, said it costs to do the public safety building. You know, because they just had it recently sealed and striped and like that. So there are some uncertain numbers there, but we're trying to make best guess. And then we come back to the owner's responsibilities, things that we're responsible for directly that are not going through Bowen. One of those is the security package, which I told you, I think at last meeting maybe, that we had settled on a $43,000 contract with OneSource, which is the company that the town uses for security now. And that includes the fire alarm system, and it includes
Panic button,
pardon?
panic button.
Yes, but recruiter stuff. It also includes external cameras for the three entrances to the building, and also that will scope out to be able to see what's going on in the parking lot. This all would obviously ultimately be connected to television screens or computer screens so that staff will be able to monitor. There was another, I forget how much money offhand, but let's say $10,000 or $15,000 that would have added cameras inside the building. So you have a camera at the circulation desk, at the main entrance, at, you know, children's area, things like that. We set that aside. That still is a useful thing to consider, but we put that as a secondary priority in order to get the price a little bit down. Particularly, I was getting very nervous about some of these bills coming in at much higher than we had anticipated, particularly security and IT. We're going to be responsible for the general term of AV, which is television sets, the equipment for the, program room, things like that. TVs, as you know, are really cheap these days, but, and I know Wendy has put in an application for put in a proposal to, Wendy, was it ALA? To really outfit the program room, because it's a larger room than this. We probably need to have a sound system so that if you have a movie night, you can actually hear what's going on.
And the grant was specific to be able to welcome in people who might have hearing or vision disabilities. So having that sound system
Really
and
accessible.
individual equipment,
So we'll have to see what happens with that. When Jason did this, he just plugged in $3,000 figuring, and my understanding from staff is that we really need to be planning to replace all of the existing television monitors we've got. This one on the wall that we're looking at was donated back when Anne Marie and Clayton Carl died. And those of you who are friends and have been, remember them. And that was at least 10 years ago. I have no idea. But it was quite a while ago. So these things have held up well, but they are old technology. So that's a little bit uncertain. Phone IT system is yet to be determined. When we were working with Block 5, we we're going to have them do the telephone system, and we did approve that even for last November. The staff were able to get the phones working with help from, I forget who, Eversource or
Breeze
Breeze Line. And
working to an extent. We
Working
have no
to an
ringing
extent.
on our end, but you know.
this is not a system we want to take with us to the whole building, so we still need to buy a new phone system. And one source said normally they only do phones when they're doing the whole IT package. So we really may have to be going out to search for a new vendor on that. We did eliminate entirely block five for IT because they basically said they couldn't do anything on their annual maintenance. So even if we wanted to plunk down, I forget, the $28,000 or some number like that for the equipment, their annual cost for just routine maintenance was going to be about $25,000. And I said, we cannot spend more on IT than we spend on books and materials. So it was a friendly conversation. They suggested another company that might be a good fit. And they were supposed to get in touch, and I'll have to talk to Wendy. They were supposed to get in touch. They had reached out to Liz, but I think that's kind of up in the air. And right now, I know I've talked to Amy earlier today. Staff is looking at what do they have, what do they really need the system to do. I think you can explain better what you're polling people on.
I pulled together a list of all of the things that we see as being necessary upgrades to technology as we're getting into the building. I circulated that to all the other staff the other day, so if they had anything that I had forgotten, because I don't work in all their areas, that they can let me know that. I'm going to pass that on to Susan, so she has a list of all the hardware, software, et cetera, that we think needs to be addressed as we're going into the building.
And when we're going to the ABC about a lot of these technology issues, she shared with them a list of the age of some of the systems and software that we're working with. And they were so appalled. It's why even though we asked for a $3,000 addition to our capital reserve, they increased it to $5,000 because we were so sadly behind the times. So we do have another source of revenue to handle some of those IT, but that's an uncertainty. And right now, I'm thinking we might want to hire, there's a group in town called Lenhart Technology. The Lee Public Library uses them and is very happy with them. So it may be worth our while to reach out to them to work with us as a consultant to figure out what we need so that when we go out to vendors, we're looking at apples to apples and making sure our needs are met. So that's where the IT is. You're going to hear from Amy and Wendy about furniture and shelving, so I'm going to save that for them. Moving, we had gotten that bill down to about $17,000 with, us volunteers, trustees and such, packing up boxes of books. And they're moving everything and packing up and moving everything else. Building signage, we have a plug number of $15,000 to update that existing sign on the street and to create a new sign right in front of the building that says it's Barrington Public Library. And so we I don't have numbers on that. I haven't reached out to vendors yet, but there is a signage company that is contracted to Bowen for the interior signage that's required. Probably, I don't know exactly what that is, whether it's probably the restrooms and things like that.
So I was actually gonna ask you a question of whether you guys have plugged in any kind of number for just general signage within the building, adult area, like just
Yeah, that-
really.
I think a lot of that is included in what this company is doing. It's Advantage Sign who won that contract, and the owner apparently happens to live in Barrington, so I think it's worth
So
touching
that,
base with them.
that's who we would be working with to do the interior signage for the different areas of the library.
I believe so, yeah.
Doesn't the outside sign that the medical clinic uses still, we just have to get a new plastic?
We just have to get
Right.
new front stuff. I don't see us changing that, and I think it has interior lighting.
Yeah, so let's see.
It's not gonna be an electronic changes stuff, but I don't think those are allowed in Barrington, quite honestly. I
Yeah.
think the sign limitations in Barrington are pretty conservative anyway. So, yeah, so that's just a plug number right now of 15,000. We'll see when we get more data in on that. And with what Amy and I spoke of about round numbers for furniture and shelving, it brings us down to being within about $14,000 of the $3.3 million amount. So we're pretty close. But you know, this is still going to be changes. There are still going to be ups and downs. But I have to say, I'm so impressed with what Bowen has done. You would think they were spending their own personal dollars, not in a way to be cheap, but in, gee, if we save this, if we move that, you know, things like that. They've been really great. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amy and Wendy to give us the show and tell.
Really, it's me. I am her assistant. Measure, we would make conversation with different choices and everything, but she's done a lot of work on this, so.
Everybody on staff has had a little bit of their input in here, so.
And I really thought it was helpful. As Liz was leaving and she wasn't dealing much with this, I just said, you guys run with it. But I wanted the trustees to be able to see the kind of materials and such that we're looking at.
All right. So
And as a
basic,
reminder, as you look at these things, you'll remember that I think we showed you carpet samples at one point, and it's sort of a natural theme. So, you know, the mountains, there's probably some gray in there, some purple.
And we took all the carpet samples and flooring samples
And
and.
the marmoleum samples, and that sort of thing, so that, okay, you're on, Amy.
so I've been working on two different things. I've been working on getting the finalized furniture quotes. Liz had started with a company called Key. So I got the final quotes from them today, and I've been looking other places for other types of furniture that we would be using, you know, at different costs as well. So I pretty much put that all together, and I've gotten samples from them. We've compared it to carpets, wall colors, the whole 9 yards. So right now, it looks like if you budgeted for about 75,000 for furniture total, that should be a safe bet for you guys with all the stuff that we have here. You have an adult seating area, which would be towards the front of the library. I'm kind of fiddling in that area a little bit too with how the shelving is going to be laid out and where the furniture is going to be. But you can see we've got this poles, the carpet in that area is a green color. Actually, Wendy, do you want to grab the
Yeah.
carpet things?
And when you say the front area, you mean that sort of L shape?
Yeah. So the L, when you go down the L and then you're facing the adult area, it goes this way towards the back of the building and this way towards the front of the building. So this is in the front area of the building. So to do a seating area over there. All of these chairs have a laptop desk, 2 left hand, 2 right hand. So that way people can sit where they're comfortable. That desk can move in front of you for you to put stuff on or out of your way if you don't want to have it there. They do not have electrical power in them, but they would be seated next to areas where we have outlets in the wall so we could do charging stations. We're also planning on having a charging station at that bank, that media bank with the high top seats. So people will be able to plug in over there. And you'll see a little bit later on in the teen area, we're also going to have another a wall charging station that people can use. So Wendy can be my show and tell. So this is the green carpet.
Vanna White, right?
Oh, my gosh. I'd probably fall down turning letters. All right.
So we wanted to do something, I mean, a little fun and a little modern. We didn't want to go crazy, but we figured it would be nice to have something a little bit different. So got a little playful with the seats and the coffee table sorts of things.
It feels good.
Maybe there's a work table rotate on the arm.
Yes, it rotates out of the way if you don't want it there. So that would be that front seating area. For the back seating area over there, there's supposed to be 4 chairs. There's also a table in that area. At this point, we're just planning on reusing the current 4 chairs that we have with a small coffee table in the middle of it. And we're planning on reusing one of the long 6-foot tables with chairs over there. When you actually look at that carpet with that blue on there, it actually looks nice and it actually pulls towards the blue that's on these new chairs. So that all kind
Is it
of
this
flows
blue?
together.
That's in that other area for the,
No, it's still green
Okay.
in that area. Oh, battery is running low. Are we not plugged in?
we're plugged in. I'm plugged in. Try.
I think it wasn't plugged in over here.
Okay.
All right. So our next area. This is for the teen area. So this is the area kind of right up front as you walk in the door. We wanted to keep it similar, but we wanted to make it a little funkier for the teenagers. So they have this kind of colored carpets in their area. So these, it's the same pattern, but it's a different color scheme than the other one. So it pulls more to the rust colors that
And
are in
still
there.
brings this, which the other areas have too.
Yeah, and that color is a little bit different. It's a little bit brighter than the one that's in the adult room, a little more colorful. We changed the teen area a little bit. In the original diagram, it showed 5 big chairs in that area, 3 around a television on the wall. When we really started looking at this and talking about it as a staff, we realized that video gaming area was going to be incredibly loud. There's no way that we could have it. If it was a closed off teen area with a door, that would be one thing, but having it open like that to the rest of the library, there's just no way that was going to work. So instead of that, we figure the TV that's in the small meeting room in that area, we can always push back the table and chairs in that meeting room and the kids can go in there and play video games and close the door if they want to. So for that space, we're going to do booth seating with a table in between instead of 3 big chairs in front of a TV. So that way the kids are going to have some social space that they can sit and enjoy each other's company. And then there will be 3 total chairs. There'll be 2 in front of the front window with a coffee table in front of it. And then there's going to be another one off to the corner. The small study room is going to have this table with these chairs with a sled base. That'll just be for 4 people in there. If you go into the children's area, same thing. We tried to keep it similar. This is the same sort of fabric from the children's area. This fabric is a little more like the one in the adult area. I had actually picked a different one, and when I got it in, it was really scratchy, which none of us liked. This is actually called a chair and a half. So they're bigger, so a parent can sit in the chair with their kid. And they can sit and they can
Or 2
read.
little kids could.
Or 2 little kids could pile in there if they wanted to. In the original diagram, the architect had put 4 of these big chairs in that children's area as the seating.
This corner over here.
And when we looked at that, I was like, this is the children's area. So, we want places for adults to sit, but this corner over there, instead of having 4 big chairs, we took 2 over there. And in the other corner where those 2 chairs were going to sit, we wanted to make a children's corner of seating.
Little.
So these are two
And
like
things
tiny
to-
chairs for the little ones and a beanbag chair, so they have somewhere to sit, and the two little ottomans for the little kids to sit. And then we can put the round black in the center with a couple of the rocker chairs. Because you do have items in this collection coming out. It's not just your picture books. You have ages 8 through 12 that are also going to be using that area. So we wanted some funky floor seating that maybe those kids would be interested in sitting at. So we kind of looked at that area. There's a little dinosaur over here on that
The
wall. We're going to put the activity. It's basically a sensory wall, so the kids can sit and play. Nothing pulls off of it, so
There's
they can
lots of
play
people
on the
on
wall,
it.
but there's not going to be pieces and parts roaming around. But we just thought, don't be kissing.
You can have a-
Would be for adults in that area?
Just
The
two bigger
the
chairs
two
over
bigger
there.
chairs over there would be for adults. This one in the middle, the black round one, that could be used by adults as well.
Spread out the
Yep.
other things on there.
And actually, your rocker chairs, as much as they show a teenager in those, I know a lot of adults who like those rocker chairs as well. So
Because I just know that a lot of parents had mentioned wanting a place to sit and talk while their kids were playing around.
Oh, and there's gonna be seating here.
Yeah.
Oh, there'll be more seating.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's gonna be a whole area here.
Okay.
All right, let me go to the next one.
Not quite so secluded for, the parents can read and the
Right.
kids can read in that corner,
Yeah.
but.
So as you go into that middle space, the area where Wendy's story corner sort of is, Wendy wanted some kind of delineation of that space. So we wanted this barrier seating that's going to be a line that will go like a corner unit here, two straights and a corner unit that will go right here. And that seating is going to face in there where the kids' activity tables are and
Halfway, a tinge more than halfway,
Yep.
right?
and the toy bin will be there as well. So parents would be able to sit along that edge while their kids.
But it prevents our little ones that might be in here from running, because we have runners even with the door closed. They will get it open and up they go. So
Yep.
this will just help a little bit for parents also.
Yeah.
It's not just us, the parents.
Right, so hopefully the parents aren't like constantly having to run after their kids. So there will be that long seating area along that area as well. And in that area, you can also see there's two blocks in there that would be your two craft tables with the chairs over there.
Mhm.
Those can
This way.
get set aside during certain times. They can be brought out during other times. And then you'll see there's some floor cushions there for the kids. We're trying to replace the ratty old
Yeah.
carpet squares that we have. And then Wendy wants to reuse her rocking chair. So we've already talked to one of our volunteers and he said he thinks he can give it
Refinish
a
and stain it. and
restain
fix it up.
it.
It's so
My only
nice.
comment on that is that feels like there's a lot of furniture in that story time area, so.
Do you know what? We felt that the two craft tables would be a lot, so that's why we're finding ways that how can we put it to this end and then it's more open. This spot will be all open if we push our tables, then pull them out when we need them.
When you need them.
But it is kind of like a safety thing to keep them where they belong.
Oh, I'm just making the opposite, because that chair is humongous,
Oh,
and it's a rocking chair. I'm not saying you can't take it, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but it's rocking chairs take up a lot of space. And so it's just something to be aware of. It might be that it gets there and it's like,
You might.
might,
Right.
but at that
Yeah.
point, if we needed to.
we'll see.
I think the two craft tables are gonna be the thing that
We are finding how we're going to put
Yeah,
them together.
and I don't know, my suspicion is that when Wendy does crafts with kids, she's gonna be doing that in the big meeting room.
If you have a big, kids just want to be in that play area
Yeah.
and they're drawing or something, like
Right.
the kids.
Paper, coloring,
Yeah,
glue sticks,
That's just,
fine.
that's less of a class than a kids being busy.
We may decide to keep one table in there and maybe store the other one, and when we need it, bring it out, or store that one off
Do
the
they
main
fold up?
room. That does not
No, that one
fold.
does not.
It does go different heights. But
Yes,
we could stack the chairs and then store the stacked chairs and the table. So you might only have one out on a regular basis, but have the second one if she did say, oh, I do want to do a craft with,
Yeah.
with 8 kids in this
okay, well,
area. Maybe
And
it just
these are-
felt like it was getting to be a lot in that.
Yeah.
These are mid-sized children's chairs too, not quite as small as that, it's like that mixed level up.
Yeah.
So that was for second graders,
Yeah.
we find, but 3 and 4-year-olds, kindergartens would be fine.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
And the seating on the other side, you've got those two bigger chairs, which will take up that corner. And it looks like a lot of seating on the other side, but you gotta have to remember, those seats you're talking about for the little
Yeah.
kids are tiny,
Yeah,
are
I
super
wasn't worried
tiny
about
though.
the corner, just the.
It was that
the-
area.
the-
Yeah.
The thing, when I went over there, what looked absolutely huge.
Yeah.
You know, a month or 6 weeks ago, as they put walls in and stuff, it's beginning to not look so, you know.
Yeah, and once you
well,
start
we
getting
went
stuff
over
in
that
there.
and we went, oh.
Yeah. I mean, we're already like looking at this and going, yeah, it's gonna be
It's
tight
tight.
in a
It's
few
gonna be
places.
different.
It's going to be just as tight with our shelving,
Uh-huh.
but there's going to be areas for seating, for extra, you know, it's gonna make it so much more
Yeah.
pleasurable to read the library.
Are the cushions telescoped or is there some way, they're nicely stacked there? Is it?
They're just stacked.
They're stacked.
There's nothing to hold them,
They're
no,
stacked.
yeah, they're just stacked.
So we may want to look at some kind of little bin or something that we can
Yeah.
put
And he
those
was
in
talking
at some
about the
point.
toy chest being over there as well, whatever is in that chest.
Yeah.
There's a window that it could go
Yeah.
underneath, so that, turn it around backwards. I mean, open it up and turn it around, that way it's only a little bit over a foot deep, 12 inches of the foot space taken.
Yeah.
And then I can turn it around and open it up.
Yeah.
But we would keep it,
Well,
we'll see how that works. That's another
how
thing.
that
Once we
goes.
get there, maybe it's not the best way.
Mhm.
And we can make that decision too later, but,
Yeah.
they do love to be able to come and do puzzles and blocks and other.
next
Yep.
slide.
All right, so this would be your Barrington room and the meeting room that's over towards the adult area. We tried to make the Barrington room a little fancier looking. We did the boat table that has the cherry top on it and matching with the blue chairs. And the chairs that have the rollers to make it easy for people to get in and out, and also arms on those, make it more like a conference room than just another study room. The small study room, simple table, 5 chairs. When we measured that room, this table is actually going to have to go up against one wall. So we can't do 6 chairs in there because one side of that is going to be up against the wall in order to maintain enough room in there that people don't feel like they're stumbling over each other.
And also these chairs for the Barrington room, their footprint, when we were looking at other chairs, they took up a lot of space.
Yeah.
And so these actually took up the better space if we wanted to do 3 on each side, three, and then 1 on each end. So space wise, it was,
They stack.
And the only question I would have,
Those will not
and I'm
stack.
sure they come with armless
Then we-
versions as well.
They do.
Should we get some armless to mix in? Because I see that in a lot of places. The arms are nice, but they take up more space or whatever.
If you guys want, I can always tell the company I want to do 6 armless and then the 2
Two
at
with
the
arms,
end
just with the
with
ends.
arms.
What do you think, Roger?
You know, I don't think it makes a great deal of difference.
With, without arms?
No.
Well,
I mean, to the people you mean, or to the,
to the users of the room, I don't think you're gonna sit there and feel envy about the person at the end of the
Yeah.
table that's got arms. I think
Mhm.
That's a lower profile arm too. It's not like it.
I was gonna say, it doesn't stick way out
Yeah.
over, it's just a little bit.
Kind of like a half arm almost that you can, like kind of rest,
right?
elbow rest type thing. But that's up to you guys. If you want, I can do part of them with no arms and part of them with.
Any thoughts on that? No?
No?
Whatever. Okay, next.
I'm fine.
Right, the large meeting room.
Yeah.
So we already have a number of chairs in the closet over here that everybody who comes to our meeting room, they actually like those chairs. So I found the company that we purchased those from. That company is called Mighty Light. So we would get 32 more folding chairs. So we would have enough to fill that room. And then 2 chair carts. Which the tall one is the chair cart. So right now we're like shoving everything and taking it out constantly, and it's so I mean, these basically you hook the chairs onto the cart
Wonderful.
and then you
they'll
roll
right
the
into
cart
storage.
right into the storage area. And when you want them, you roll them right out. So that will be really nice. We're doing a couple more card tables. We have our mahjong players that come and people who do games. We've got a couple already, but I know one is Wendy's that she's just been leaving here, and the other one has a leg that's busted. So we needed to replace a couple of those. We wanted to add training tables. So training tables are the tables that you see when you go to a conference, and they're really only about that wide. These will fold up so they can go in a storage closet, so they're not out all the time. But we'd really like to be able to offer more computer programs or even some of the classes that we offer here on a variety of subjects. Sometimes people just need a little desk in front of them that they can write down notes. So we'd like to do 6 of those so we could seat at least 12 people facing forward.
Be great for a tech class.
Yeah, great
We
for a
always
tech
talk about, we
class.
want to start getting
Yeah.
Joe to do some technology classes and those.
And I mean, I would say start with 6, and then if you feel like you can fit more in the room or you're having larger classes, you can always look at buying more in the future. We wanted to do 6 banquet tables for events. I know there was a little bit of talk at some point, and I mean, we would be using these for crafting and for programs, but you guys were also talking about possibly renting out that space to people for a fee. I think that was something that was being bandied about.
The comment, and this is where meeting room policy is gonna be a whole
Yeah.
piece of work to do.
Mhm.
But I remember when Liz was here, and I think I've heard other directors say the same thing. We should not rent this out for birthday parties and things like that, because that's a nightmare as far as cleaning and maintaining.
Kind of like business meetings or something.
Yeah, and I think the question on that we'll have to tackle with is, if it's a business that's in town that's paying taxes, they should have access to the room for free. If it's a business that's going to use it to sell products or something, you know, we'll have to see. But, you know, I do think we want to maximize the use of that. And as we know, there are some libraries that make some good money
Right.
on renting out their
It
space.
would be large deposits, then if it's dirty, when you come back, you do not get back.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know,
The library that's done the most on that I'm aware of is Peterborough, but they have a huge, I mean, remember, they're a town smaller than us, and they spent $8 million on this library, and they have an unbelievably huge space that they do rent out, and it's rented to nonprofits as well as for-profits. It's not just free, but anyway, that's something to be explored.
Yeah, so I mean, to be prepared for that, I mean, we also use those banquet tables all the time for crafts and for programs. So doing 6 of those, like I said, we have a few. There's a couple that I know Wendy feels are kind of heavy and bulky, so we were trying to find, like, we're for the lightest one.
how much do they weigh?
How much do they weigh?
Gosh, it's 24 pounds, no.
Yeah. One of the other things that's in here is a rolling coat rack that we could store away. So if we did have a large event with 50 people sitting in chairs, instead of everybody having to dump their coats on the back of their chairs or anything, we could roll out into the vestibule area, the coat rack, so people could have a place to go, or that could go in the back of the room.
We talked on the building committee, I think at one point, we talked about the hooks, you know, wall hooks. And I saw some at the Weeks Library. Some of you may remember, there were these sort of black things and they looked really cool. But I think the comment was, yeah, they are cool and that's a really good idea. And nobody uses them.
Yeah.
So I think your idea of a rolling rack.
Yeah. We talked about the hooks too, and we said the same thing. I don't know how much people would use the hooks, but I mean, this is really
Take
more
up the wall
for
space.
a larger event. Like, okay, Wendy has 24 people here for a craft program. There's going to be glue. There's going to be paint. There's going to be glitter. People might not want that all over their jacket that's sitting on the back of the chair. So maybe then we could say you can put your coat over here so it doesn't get dirty and gross.
Yep.
So this next one is that high top media center. I've already talked to Susan. They asked me to put in a plumbed Keurig in this area. They're actually going to have the plumbing coming up, so the Keurig doesn't have to be refilled manually all the time.
Again, if they said the pipe is going right overhead, it won't cost much to have
Yeah.
have it so that you're not constantly going to a bathroom and putting water in a Keurig maker. It's gonna be.
So there are going to be 6 high top chairs along that unit. So I have 2 here that the staff both went. So this chair at the end is going to be at the OPAC. The OPAC is going to be right at the end of that thing.
You're pointing, but it's not on the screen.
Yeah. So we wanted this one on wheels.
Yes, that could be at the end.
Because we need to have something that's easy for someone in a wheelchair to move out of the way if they need to pull into that OPAC station, because it's going to be a seated OPAC station. And they're building it so it goes in, so a chair could be pulled up underneath it. Any other OPAC stations are going to be iPads that are going to be in a locked case, like at the end of an aisle. We can do one in the adult section and one in the children's section. So those will be stand-up units, but this one will be ADA accessible. So you can go one of two ways here. You can either do the chair, the tall chair that matches from Key. The ones next to it are from Mighty Light. You can pick different fabrics, different colors. The ones from Mighty Light are a little bit less expensive than the ones there. I didn't know how you guys felt about that. Do you want this whole area to match with the seating? I mean, I'm kind of looking at the one with gray, and I don't know if that looks too home-like or kitchen-like versus the other one. So I was kind of going back and forth on.
That all metal or
The blue one.
titanium or something?
And so the grayish one is actually, that's wood. So the other one is metal legs.
And it says you can do a sled base on the metal one.
Yeah, I might be able to do a sled base on that metal one. I'd have to look, but I might be able to play with the base on that one a little bit. I guess it
The one you
depends.
have highlighted.
No,
What's the-
this one that I have highlighted, that's the way it comes. I can't do
Okay.
anything. It's this one that I might be able to do a sled base on.
Which would make it move a little easier.
Slide it in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know which one you guys like
And we don't
more.
know how comfortable they are because we only have pictures.
Right, you only have pictures.
Anybody have?
So it is padded, right? It's not a hard plastic. it's
Yes,
a material.
so these came with just being a plastic seat. I did include upholstery on all of these chairs, the meeting room chairs. So wherever you see color, that's upholstery. When Liz first did this, she had them all just plastic seats. And I don't know about anybody else, but when I'm sitting somewhere for an hour or two, I don't want a plastic seat on my butt.
Yeah, it gets tiresome.
So I think that's up to you guys, what do you think? Like the matching set all the way around that L, or do you want to do something a little different?
Do you have any sense for how sturdy the chair is to saddle up into for those of us not built like Ezra?
I mean, I honestly can't tell you because I haven't.
I
Use
that would
both
be
of them.
one concern for an older individual who's short of stature
Mhm.
to have to get on, just so it doesn't.
Would there somebody who's short of stature choose that high top table?
Choose the
Or
height,
would they go to a seated area?
right?
We'll go to one of the carols that will also have.
That will also.
Maybe they
have
want to
seating.
sit next to Ezra though.
Right.
We're friends.
That's right, yeah. So I think they both have what you need to do that, which is the rod across the front that you can do that kind of like push up if you're a little bit shorter. I mean, I know my husband's tall and I'm not nearly as tall as him. And if we sit at a high top, he just sits down and I'm using that bar in front to try to push myself up there. So, I mean, they both have that bar in the front. So, I mean, I think either one you'd be able to do that. This one does have, it's got a piece of metal right here on the top of that because they know people are going to use that to kind of push up a little bit. So really, it's just a matter of
Give some guidance.
That kind of looks sickly.
Yeah.
I like the design on the wood, but I kind of like the one you've got highlighted.
okay.
It looks kind of sleek and.
Mhm.
It does, and the fact that it would match the other one.
The other
I
one.
think it would just make it look like it goes
Right.
together.
Hospitality, is that like a little counter that you can sit and drink your coffee?
No, it's a counter where you can get your coffee.
So
There's
there's,
a chair for it.
Wendy, if you want to,
High chair.
okay, so there's
Yeah.
a hospitality
This is the hospitality counter,
counter.
but this is the high top table.
High top table.
So
Yeah.
it's.
The high top table
High chairs.
is going to have electric all coming up through the middle of it. So
You
there's
can
gonna
plug
be this
in.
thing that's in the middle and there's gonna be plugs on both sides, laptops.
Coffee.
Right, your coffee, your
Spill
laptop.
your coffee on the laptop.
Hopefully not.
We're obviously inviting people to have coffee and tea as we do here.
Yeah.
But with a covered cup,
Mhm.
none of this open mug business.
Yeah.
Back with the plumbed irrigation.
Yep.
We have I'm guessing an artesian well because we don't have water, right? We don't have public water, so
No,
an
right.
artesian well.
Artesian or Doug.
Well, oh,
Well.
at
As far
the,
as I know, it's a well and the water was tested when we were doing the due diligence before buying
I
the
was gonna say,
building.
do we have a
And they said it was fine.
filtration system though?
Pardon?
Do we have a filtration system?
Yes.
Filter?
Yeah,
I do not remember.
yeah, it was pointed out the last time I was there.
Give a tour.
Yeah. There is
Okay.
a fairly large filtration system
Because water can change over, I mean, pipes and it's been changing over time.
Yeah, it's probably in this closet over here, right?
So I currently have the one from Key, that's the metal and the blue that matches the opaque one in the numbers that I just sent to Susan. So do you guys want me to leave it that way and just take this little guy out of here?
I like them. I like it.
You like-
Yeah,
That's really-
I think most of us like that.
Okay.
And when you say you have a.
But if you can also see if they come with slide.
I'll look and see. Would you guys, do you think you'd prefer a sled base on that if I could do a sled base on it?
What's that?
So.
Personally, I think the sled base actually appeals to me as a more stable
I agree.
than
So-
individuals.
The sled and the sledge is something that I need.
Yes. I'll study.
So if I can do a sled base on those, you'd prefer that?
Yeah,
This
Yeah.
makes it like a small study room.
yeah,
Yes.
Full-
exactly.
Fully ready.
Is there anything else in your little show?
Okay, so this is the staff break room. We're basically just getting stuff off of Amazon and a table from Walmart. This is the circulation desk and library entry area. We need a high stool, a low stool. We're looking at getting a couple new book carts, flag holder for outside, so we can do it right outside the door instead of having a pole. We'll have it easy take in, take out at night. That way it doesn't get worn. Joe asked us if we could get her a roving librarian desk. So the technology librarian can rove around the library and actually assist people. So we think that would be
I
great.
think that's a great idea.
And then in the front, we actually had them take out in that center area one of the long rows for new materials. And instead, we're looking at getting 3 of these Paladin book displays that are much more bookstore looking, a little more friendly when you walk in the door, kind of gives it a little bit of,
I really like that.
Mhm.
You can see that instead of just a bite in the.
right, instead of just walking into
Yeah,
a thing of books,
jump
you
again.
actually see something enticing.
Across from those lovely windows.
Right. So this over here, this is the teen, whoop, where we go, teen area. So the teen area, the shelves in the original drawing were going 3 sets going in this direction. We looked and went, we can't see what the teenagers are doing down there. So that didn't seem like the best of ideas to us. So we asked the shelving person to reorient them. So we're gonna have a visual down that aisle over there. And with some of the changes that we made in furniture over there, at first they went out into the main area a little bit, but we think she's gonna be able to push those back in because our seating is going to be a little bit different. So that'll give us the visual we need. This is the adult area where I'm still working with the shelving person to nail down what we want to do here. The original drawing is on your right. Once again, when the shelving person looked at that and we were walking through, she was like, your light from those front windows is going to be blocked by a shelving unit. And the person sitting there is going to be staring at a shelving unit instead of being able to see down into the rest of the library. So she rotated the shelves on the left-hand side. It does make seating along the edges a little tighter, doesn't have as big of a space right up front. So we're playing with that. The other reason that she liked that orientation, and I did, this also lets us add wall shelving between the windows, and I'm desperately trying to figure out how to get our entire DVD collection in here, and our DVD collection still does move really well. So I'm going to be doing a deep dive into some numbers over the next couple of days, and I might see if I can give up a couple shelves. It would be over here that I would tell her to get rid of them. So we would have an unobstructed wall over there for seating, and then up front do some seating facing each other. I have to figure out how to get the collection in there and maintain seating. So
It's like we have 2 competing priorities. They have number 1 priorities. One is collection.
Yeah.
So that's what the library is about. The other is community, which is
Yeah.
also what the library is about. And what we're really, and trying to meld those and balance them without sacrificing
right.
one or the other in a space that is, remember, about, well, anywhere from 2 to 10,000 square feet smaller than we really
Neat.
I
Right.
wanted to have for this town, so.
So I'm still playing. Corey from Tucker is kind of going back and forth with me. So that's what I'm working on over the next couple of days, trying to figure that out and figure out where I can parcel collections and seating and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, I don't know. How do you guys feel about the shelves going in this direction versus being able to see down the aisles and get the natural light down the aisles?
That's one of the questions, but the other question is where we're gonna put all the DVDs.
Where are we gonna put all the DVDs?
So they do not
Right,
fit. one-
because if she does this,
Yeah.
there is no room around the edges for any wall shelving whatsoever, which,
I
right,
have to give up a couple of
yeah,
sections of bookshelf.
bookshelves, which
Can't do
we can't because
can't.
we're just squeaking in for the adult fiction. So then my thing is going to be, if I don't have that wall shelving there, I am literally going to be looking at our AV collection and going, how do I get rid of a large segment of it to fit in there, which I'd rather not do. I've already weeded it pretty heavily.
Don't know how we could do it, but I've seen in historical libraries and others that all the shelves are here, and then you move this one down here if you wanna go in, then you move two down, and you go in between them, then you.
Oh, sliding, yeah.
This
I can imagine what the.
is very expensive,
Okay.
sliding shelving
They
like
have
that.
that in the Advent Library for books, and I
Yeah.
thought it looked like, you know, so they have all these shelves with,
Uh-huh.
and you slide them back and forth along.
Huh.
Although I don't know what happens if somebody's in the next.
Kind of one.
It looked a little,
Right.
you
I
know,
mean, the second rendition feels like the one that you're able to accomplish the most in. I
Mhm.
mean, both, I mean, you get the light, you get the DVD shelving, you still have seating. You know, especially if we're able to remove
That
Um,
second,
that second,
Yeah.
a little bit there between the chairs, maybe
Right.
end up with a little table there or something.
right,
It's like, it's not devoid of seating
yeah,
that.
Mhm.
and
but
people
it
can
needs to
still
have
enjoy.
some.
yeah. Well, she even said to me, so the seating that we have, there's those big chairs with the flip arm. So she was even saying to me, maybe we could look at doing still comfy chairs, but maybe not so big.
Cause they're
Yeah.
a big foot.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so one of the things that Susan had mentioned to me earlier is there is also the opportunity for us to say, okay, this is what we want and put in the shelving and then say, we're gonna hold off on buying the furniture for this area up front until we actually get in there. We can actually sit there with measuring tape and figure out where we're gonna be and what we want in that area. We can always go back after we move in and furnish another
And we
seating
do have
area.
the furniture that we have here,
Mhm.
you know, some of the tables and
Right.
chairs are coming. And Amy made a good observation with, which I agree, which is, you know, it's amazing, those are 25 years old,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the fabric looks really good.
It's
And
still in
maybe,
good shape.
remember Liz had come up with a company in Rochester that would reupholster, but then thought, you know, maybe we just
They're
need to have
not
them
pouring or
clean.
anything.
No, just clean it.
There, and if there's any loose ones, and we have to sort of assess what that is, so we could actually use some of those chairs.
Right.
Because I don't think residents will be unhappy not to have everything new
Right.
while we get settled in.
So
And
the
We
plan,
have to order every single plane right now, we can
Mhm.
order some now and some after we get in, and it'll come months later, but.
so my original plan was to use
At the front, yeah.
all of this up front. But what we could do instead is if we wanted to, we could use the new chairs here.
Yep.
And have some fun with it. And then we could use the old stuff, what we can
From the
fit
magazine area down
from the
there.
magazine area, and then we can see if that fits and play with that. And then if we decide we don't like that, or we do like that, they're great, that's a seating area, it all matches. Or we could say that's the furniture that we're gonna slowly replace with similar things that will fit. This company has different styles of chairs. They have like barrel chairs that have a little bit of a smaller profile. Some of them
Mhm.
twist and go back and forth. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a variety of things that we can do in that area. It's just a matter. I know for me, I have a hard time visualizing spaces until I actually get in there. So, I mean, that may be do we put the shelving in the way it's best for the collection and then we figure out the seating
Yeah.
once we're in there?
That's like Jim Nelson
Mhm.
viewing teams and being
Yeah.
the light for the natural light.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think the teen area, that change isn't gonna be any issue with the furniture or how we have it. But it's that front part, I kind of need you guys to say to me, which one of those do you what are you willing to give up or play around with? I personally feel like it's easier to figure out what chairs are gonna go where
Once we
than,
get the shelving in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think also we elected, to use the wall DVD
Mhm.
shelving that
We
we
use
got
them.
here, that's
Mhm.
perfectly serviceable,
right,
not even all that old.
yeah,
Originally, there was gonna be built-in shelving in wood, which not inexpensive, and we just said, forget
Mhm.
that, which brought that cost down.
What we got?
Use what we have.
right.
Amy, with any of all of this, is there any ideas about window treatments at all? I'm thinking
Oh,
particularly there.
The only thing, when I asked, Jason about that earlier, and he said, you're gonna want the light. The only place where he said you probably will want to, and that's not included in the budget, but we would add that, would be in the program room.
To be able
Because
to
if you have a
darken,
movie and
right,
you want it
dark.
dark, and you have it during the day, obviously, then you're gonna need to have blackout shades or and things like that.
So next time we tour the library, down there in the adult space, and you had the left iteration there that I like because the chairs are not grouped in front of the windows. And at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a winter's evening, it's bright as can be in there.
Okay, so it's the left one where they're not all right in front of the windows, you
right.
actually like
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
I liked the idea of having some seating communal there and a couple of seats that are by themselves. Because as much as some of us want to come and talk to other people at the library, some people come here just because they have a house full of children and whatever, they just want solitude, they just want to be by themselves. They want that chair.
we have a
that's
couple
by
of people
itself.
that daily come just by themselves to read the newspaper, to do work on
Yeah,
the
they just wanna hang
table.
out.
They don't,
So it sounds like the one with the 3 levels that we can see down with the wall shelving is the one that we want to go for, and we'll figure out seating.
Mhm.
Okay.
And by the way, the lighting in this place is gonna be different. It's not gonna be these fluorescent things, totally different lighting. And obviously you need to have good lighting because it's not always
nice out.
sunshine out, sometimes we're there at night, and it's
Yeah.
dark.
Once you get in, you might realize that there's a couple of windows that you want to put shades on because so many people are on devices that if they're sitting in some of these chairs and the light is coming in right behind them, they might not be able to see their device unless they put
That's the
a
reason why we
shade
wanna
down.
have $15,000.
Yeah,
Right. For me, I guess there.
right.
So
Mhm.
Amy and Wendy too, this is really exciting. And so if we were to say, let's buy everything that we've talked about, then we're talking about $75,000.
For furniture, and then 125 for all of your shelving, end caps, toppers.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going through her quote again, because I don't think she took into consideration the fact that we could
We have a
cut
lot.
down a lot of these. So I'm going through line by line and saying, hey, we have 4 of these, can we not just reuse these?
And the addition is gonna be having on the lowest level, I love this, is a slanted,
Yes.
so that the books will be
You can read their title.
Tilted.
laying on here, when you're getting on your knees trying to figure out what's down there, but be slightly slanted so they're more visible. So that's some changes.
Mhm.
So I guess I would ask the board to approve at this point a maximum budget for furniture and shelving of 200,000. That's the 125 plus 75, knowing that we're not gonna we'll order all the shelving, but we're not gonna order all of the furniture at once. We'll do that over time, but it gives us that budget to work with. Are you comfortable with that? If
Yes.
so, I'd entertain a motion.
Some of the shelving you can use that's not
Oh,
really
they're
highlighted.
taking.
We can just, reusing a little bit.
Even the high stuff,
Yep.
So,
Down.
yeah, they're cutting down,
shelving.
the sides of them.
End caps, right?
Right, so the end caps are gonna be cut down, so they have to purchase new, what are they called, they're not bases, the frames.
The skeleton.
Right, so the
frame, 100%.
skeleton of it is gonna be all new, but we can reuse all the shelves that are in there.
Oh,
Because they're going to be shorter than that, they're gonna be, when I weeded this year, I made sure we came down 1 level. And that's as high as they're gonna be in the new library. You will not have that extra.
That very
top,
top one.
that very tippy top that nobody can reach anyways.
But we're reusing
Yeah.
the middle area, we're reusing all the children's shelving, completely, all of it.
So
Yeah.
we won't be able to sell those because we're taking the shells and they'll frame which
Yes.
is left.
And a lot of
Just
those
a
came
frame.
from UNH,
Yeah.
right? And they're,
Or scrap.
There's one whole shelving unit in there that is so bad that she said we have to repurchase even the shelving and the frames and everything because she's like, it doesn't even go together properly anymore. So,
are you, if you're comfortable, can we move ahead? Because we're, this is,
Yeah.
took a little longer, but, you know, it's like shopping in any store, you know? Yeah.
So a motion though to,
A motion to approve a
Oh,
budget
did you get join, Amy? We lost
for
it when you.
shelving
talked.
up to 125,000 and for furniture up to 75,000.
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
All in favor?
I mean,
Opposed?
That verbiage.
Thank you guys for all that work, especially to Amy, because she's been,
Yeah.
she loves the show.
No, that all works for me.
Choices and,
She
Yeah.
knows our numbers and shelving, it was a lot of work.
and I know it's been a hassle trying to get people to get back to you. You'd think they want to sell you the stuff, they give you prices right away.
yeah,
I'd be surprised.
it is hard to get. And people, I think everybody's facing the same thing everywhere. Everybody's short staffed. So trying to get people to give you a quote and like, if you turn around and go, I need this in a couple, no, because I mean, they're being pulled in 6 different directions, just like everybody else, so.
I will say it was very eye-opening for us also. It really, we
It's certainly
envisioned putting things in
Yeah.
and what's missing. You know, it made us rethink
And
things
the
a lot.
prices on that stuff, except for the conference furniture, it's much more expensive
Honestly,
than I expected.
those big chairs are the biggest expense, those big comfy chairs with the things that go over. And no matter what library catalog you look at that has those, they're pricey everywhere. I mean, these are, we picked what colors and fabrics we wanted, so that was that brought it up. But, you know, if it's
We're gonna
like,
live with this for years.
right, if it's like this furniture, you'll have it for 25, 30, 35 years, so.
And we'll still be using some of this furniture, and I was thinking the other night, we'll probably have to, I'm thinking after we move out of here, we want to have a yard sale or a tag sale in the library. Because we'll have stuff to sell.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Those big chairs you talked about,
Maybe they should make a donation.
they're,
That always gets us more money.
Well, I have to watch on some of these.
fabric, I guess.
Upholstery, yeah.
Upholstery.
So all these fabrics came from this company, Key, that she had been working with. And most of these, when you read the back of them, they're all washable. So if anybody gets anything on them, we should just be able to use like a bleach and water type of thing and actually wash them.
The reason I was asking is because I was thinking that, you know, we've asked for donations and some people can make $5,000 or $10,000 donations. But somebody might be willing to make a $500 donation to buy a chair and have their name on the back donated by.
Well, I think we're gonna move on to the next topic, and it's relevant. But we've done really well on fundraising for the library as a whole. So, for example, we did have, I think it was a $10,000 donation, you could sponsor one of the conversation areas.
Mhm.
And I don't remember the other numbers. I think 15,000 was the high top, something like that.
Mhm.
So we've really done a lot of that, as opposed to, we had one person who was interested in doing something with children's furniture in that, like, I'll spend so much dollars on a chair.
Mhm.
We kind of didn't want to go down that, every chair with a label on it. And every,
My follow-up has been negative with that individual.
pardon,
My follow-up with that individual has been negative.
it has been negative.
No callback.
Yeah,
I was just thinking about the big ones, not the every children's chair.
but we'll see how we go through this. You know, we may not need to. So, thank you very much. Amy.
I'll keep playing with the shelving and get that all nailed down, but.
Okay, this is kind of longer, but it really obviously had to take place, you know, because we have to start ordering stuff. The other topic relative to the building is the solar installation and contracting, and I have been meeting with Roger and Cindy Hoisington, who's the treasurer of the foundation, and Bingham, who has been working with us and designed the solar array. And the suggestion that Jack had was that he would like the contract directly with the library trustees rather than going through Ballin, for the full, I'm gonna say retail price of both the ground mount and the roof mount, and that cost is like $175. He offered to do a donation back to the town or the library of $42,000, bringing the net fee down to $133. And we talked about how to do that and the logistics of that. And I'm very sensitive to, we make sure that what we're doing is really appropriate, above board. You know, the public would find that a reasonable approach. The other thing was, as any contract, we would need to have the contract reviewed by Primex and the town attorney. And I spoke with Connor today. I couldn't send him anything because my email was broken, but we talked through that, and he has some questions about sort of the exchange with Jack, and raised a couple questions that I had raised. I was worried about it looking like a kickback, but it's not really a kickback because Jack isn't gaining anything. He's really making a donation. And then I also looked at our purchasing policy, and for any purchase of goods or services over, I can't remember, I have it with me, that's $10,000 or $15,000. Then we have to go out to do a sealed bid and consider the bidders. And can we waive that? And we talked a lot about that because the town itself went out to bid for solar for a very similar sized roof mount project. So that is one way you can do an exception, but Jack did not bid on that because he was on the energy committee. He was told it was a conflict of interest for him, and he couldn't bid on that. So what I asked Connor to do at this point was to contact the town attorney, describe the arrangement that Jack has proposed and that's been discussed with the foundation, and get a legal ruling on, is this I hate to say appropriate, but we wouldn't want to trip anything that looked like,
Favoritism.
pardon?
Favoritism.
Well, favoritism, or the reason I think Jack wants to do it that way is because I think he would get a tax benefit for a donation. And I was hoping that just saying he would discount it by that amount would be sufficient. His accountant wanted him to do this other route. And we're really struggling with that. So I just spoke to Connor this noon about that, so he hasn't gotten back to me yet. If what Jack proposes does not appear to be an arrangement that would look appropriate, then I would say the next step for us would need to be, we would need to go out and do a competitive bid, and Jack could, submit his bid, and if separately from, if he won the bid and separately he wants to make a donation, he can do that. If he, we'll just see how that goes. But quite honestly, right now, I'm kind of thinking that that's probably the way. I would not be surprised if that's what the town attorney says we should do, given our purchasing policy. That may delay us a little bit because, you have to allow people 2 or 3 weeks when you do a bidding process. I've never been through that at the town level. But, the town would help us with that because they do that not infrequently.
Well, because it's solar, there's a lot of grants and things like that out there in the state.
And that's one of the advantages of doing this. Jack has done this with other clients, is you apply for that federal rebate, which quite honestly, I am not counting on any of that money coming back, and it would come back to the town. I did talk to Connor about that earlier, and he said in making that proposal, if the town applies for the Inflation Reduction Act 30% rebate, which they are doing for the townhouse, the town hall, those funds would come back to the town and normally go into the general fund. But he said what we should do is, when making that presentation to the select board, when the foundation makes the donation that funds all this, that any rebate that would come back should be allocated to the library. And what Connor said is, that was perfectly reasonable, but we would need to present to the select board how those dollars would be spent. It wouldn't be money that comes back and just goes into a CD that we get to collect interest on would need to be clear on how we would spend those dollars. The first thing that comes to my mind is a better job on the parking lot, which the road agent who looked at it said, what really would be best would be to grind it up and, do a real repaving job, but that's like $100,000.
Mhm.
So anyway, much to be decided yet on that, but the first step is getting the town attorney's response.
Yeah.
And then based on that, we'll decide how we go forward. Roger, do you have anything to add on that? Because you and I have been around on this for, it feels like weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah, there are lots of moving parts, some subtle and some not so subtle. I think last night's meeting with, when you mentioned, we sorted through, I think, a pretty good pathway. And everybody was all in on that, so I think that's the way we need to go, and there are minutes that I.
Right.
You can distribute.
And that way was contracting directly with Jack. The contract would state $175,000, a payment schedule, the first payment being like $70,000. And out of that first payment of $70,000, Jack would write a check to the foundation for $42,000 that the foundation would then later, or, when that all came through, donate to the town. So that basically the net cost of the full array would be $133,000, and all of that would come through the foundation. So but if it doesn't go that way, then we can still end up going in that direction. But exactly how it'll pan out, we won't know until we do that bid process.
We were currently, the foundation have cash in hand and pledges that are nearly liquid, as the tax season, people see their returns and so forth. We'll be at about $132,000 with cash in
By
hand.
the middle of,
Yeah,
with
and
total money, so. And if it was short by 1,000 or 2, obviously the trustees have their own funds that we would basically just cover the remainder of that to stay with our commitment that it's gonna be non-tax dollars that do that. So that's the story on that. This will definitely come back at our next, March meeting. And I have interviewed a candidate for library director down here twice, but at least on mine, I may have corrected it on the one I sent out. So before we go on to that, Wendy, do you have anything else you'd like to offer?
Just from the director's report, which Liz wrote up before she left. We do have new staff member for our library assistant for the morning desk position. Her name's Pam Gold. She's been here all 3 weeks and 2 days, and she's doing wonderful. Very pleased. I'm very conscientious. She's so pleasant and friendly, wants to help people, and she just being very accurate, which is really important. So we're very happy to have those positions full. Yeah, so that will help us out. We're actually looking at a way to try and make sure that we don't have too much overlap so that our desk is covered. I think we used to have more hours in those positions before. And we have a little bit less hours than we used to have covering those positions. So there are a couple hours that are just not covered.
Look at that, yeah.
Yeah, so, but we're just trying to make sure there's no overlap when we're scheduling right now, because that helps us a lot as a staff, that we know somebody's there, and we're gonna need the coverage too when we get into the library, so. But they're doing both, Tori, who's been here 6 months or so, and.
Feels like longer, she's just
Yeah,
settled in.
they're really, really comfortable, in their positions, both of them. They're really nice, very nice addition to the library staff when we left with them, so. Everything else, I know that our program is gonna slow down a little bit, probably starting next month, not too much. We'll still do some programming, but depends on how much attentions to other things that need to be pulled in, so. Well,
Did Liz do the statistics, and it may have been sent out?
yes.
Okay, I
I don't have it here.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, I can go, it wasn't sent out, so sorry. It wasn't part, I can go look
Okay,
at.
okay, that's fine, as long as you send it out, then we'll.
Yeah, our January statistics are great.
Okay, Thank
but
you.
then that was slow, yeah, sorry.
So we're gonna move on to the next part of the meeting, which is a non-public session. So Wendy,
I'm gonna turn this
you're
off
gonna
and then
turn
I'll-
that off. So we need a vote to go into non-public for,
Sorry.
personnel and reputation.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public.
Second.
And we have to do a roll call vote. Lydia?
Lydia, I.
Ezra, aye.
Melanie, I.
You're-
My voting thing?
Yes, you are.
Diane, I.
Susan, I.
Oh.
Susan doesn't vote.
Okay, Barbara and
Okay. And, so that's passed.